Here's more examples of simplifying with exponents. So our first example is x raised to the negative 1 power. If you remember, you cannot leave an answer with a negative power. So what we do is we flip it. It's going to be 1 over, and now this becomes a positive 1. Example B. This piece right here has a negative power, so it's going to flip up. But be careful, you don't take the 3 with it. So now it's 1 times x raised to the second power makes it positive, and then the 3 stays alone. So that looks like x squared over 3. You don't take the 3 with it because that's not 3 to the negative power. All right, next example, C. What I like to do first whenever I see negative powers is I like to move them. So this is going to move down to the denominator, and this is going to move up to the numerator, making those positive. So my 12a cubed stays as it is, and my 4b stays as it is, and I'm going to move this down as a b to the 4th. I'm going to move this up as an a squared. Now, we can go ahead and use our rules. I'm going to leave the 12 alone. A cubed times a squared, they're the same base, so we can go ahead and add those powers. That's a to the 5th over 4. And I'm just going to change that to b to the 1. And now we're going to add those powers together. B to the 5th. All right, we're not quite done yet. We've used our powers, but we can go ahead and reduce that fraction. The 12 and the 4 can reduce down by 4. So this will cancel out to a 3, and this will cancel out to a 1. So your final answer then is 3a to the 5th over 1 times b to the 5th. All right, example D. What happens with example D is we have a power raised to the negative. So what you could do is you could distribute in everything, and now you have all these negative powers, and you have to do all your flipping. One of the things we tell students is if you see that power out here, you can flip it right away. You can flip this piece, and then it makes it a positive 2. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the y, and then the 3x squared, and now that makes it a positive 2. Now we can distribute in to all of the pieces. So you're going to get y squared, 3 squared, x squared, squared. Now I'm going to clean up that denominator. 3 times 3 is 9. And now x squared times x squared, that's a power 2 power, so we multiply those numbers. I am going to show you it the other way if you didn't want to flip it first. So I have 3x squared over y raised to the negative 2. You could just distribute in first all the negative powers. So you'd have 3 to the negative 2, x squared to the negative 2, and y to the negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply these first. So 3 to the negative 2 stays. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and then y to the negative 2. Now we end up with all these negatives, so we have to flip-flop everything. So we're going to move on everything, this down, and that up. So it's y squared in the numerator, 3 squared in the denominator, and x to the 4th in the denominator. And now I just clean up this 3 squared. So I have y squared staying as it is. 3 times 3 is 9, x to the 4th. All right, here is another example. We're going to go ahead and distribute this 3 through. So I have 5 raised to the 3rd, x squared raised to the 3rd, z to the 6th raised to the 3rd. Now, before I begin distributing this negative through, if you remember, you can flip that whole thing, and now it makes it a positive. So think about if I have just 5 to the negative 3, and I want to flip it, it'll be 1 over 5 to the positive 3. So this whole thing is going to come down to the denominator, and now it's going to make it a positive 3 power. All right, so let's go ahead and go back up to the numerator, and we're going to multiply. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. X squared raised to the third, we're going to multiply those numbers together. Z to the 6th raised to the third, we're going to multiply those numbers together. Now we'll head down to the denominator. We're going to distribute the 3 into all pieces. So that's 5 raised to the third, x squared raised to the third, z to the 6th raised to the third. I'm going to leave the red alone, the numerator. Now, 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. X squared raised to the third, multiply it, you get 6. Multiply it again, you get 18. And look at that. I have everything in the numerator matched up with everything in the denominator. So we can cancel. 125's cancel. X to the 6's cancel. Z to the 18's cancel. We're not left with 0. We are left with 1. Our last set of examples on this movie. 3 raised to the n times 3 raised to the 2n. These are the same bases, so we're going to add those powers. So 3 raised to the n plus 2n equals n plus 2n is 3n. Let me just leave it alone. Example B, I'm going to distribute in. So I'm going to leave that first fraction alone. I'm going to distribute in a cubed, b cubed. Now, I'm going to multiply across negative and positive here. If you remember what happens when you multiply common bases together, the exponents add together. So you have a negative 3 plus 3. Same thing in the denominator, negative 3 plus 3. A to the 0, b to the 0. It's not 0, it's 1 over 1, which is 1.